Hey there and welcome. I'm glad you're here today because we are going to talk all things pizza dough, namely my signature homemade pizza dough recipe. And I have everything assembled here to show you how to do it. And it's so easy. I do rely on a stand mixer, but you can mix it by hand. It's not a big deal. But come along and we're going to talk about how to make a really easy pizza dough that you don't have to run out to the store for. All you need is about an hour or two to let it rise and you'll be eating pizza in no time. All right, so the first things I want to go through really quick are the ingredients. I have here flour. Now in my recipe, I note that I use bread flour. I've kind of changed it. If I have bread flour, I use it, but otherwise I will use a 00 flour. King Arthur is widely accessible and I love using it, and I am going to use it today because the bag is open. My other favorite of all favorites is this Antimo Caputo flour, and it's a chef's flour, a Tipo 00 flour, which you'll see here is the same here. And it's just a very 00 flour is very light and fluffy, very, very, very fine. It's like talcum powder. It's so light. But if worse things come to worse and you don't have anything else, you can use all-purpose flour. You're just going to end up with a little bit different result. This chewy texture that you like, you know, when you take a bite, crisp on the outside, chewy, is what we're going for in this homemade pizza dough. So, flour. Next big important thing is yeast. I store my yeast in the freezer and I just have it in a mason jar. I mark the date on it when I put it in here and kind of go from there. I use an instant yeast. I do not use an rapid rise yeast, but an instant yeast. The nice thing about instant yeast is, although my recipe does talk about active dry yeast and tells you how to feed it and all that, the instant yeast you don't have to do that with. It works out perfectly. So you just kind of put everything into the bowl and you're ready to go. Other ingredients: water, very important. A tiny, tiny bit of sugar, because I still do like to feed the yeast and it adds a little bit of sweet flavor. You can use honey. Salt, very important, and some olive oil. So let's get started on making our pizza. So I'm going to start by measuring out my flour, and I have a 1.5 cup measure here, and I like to do a scoop and swipe. Now, of course, you can weigh it, and that is really the more exact way to do it. And my fellow Italian pizza loving, the precise Italian making of pizza would be weighing this out. My Neapolitan dough, I do have it weighed and measured out because hydration it's really important in bread making and pizza dough to begin with. But this is a little more rudimentary pizza dough. So I have 3 cups of the 00 flour there, and then we're just going to scrape off another 1/2 cup and set that aside. To the flour, I'm going to add the yeast, and because I store it this way, I have to measure it out, and it's 2¼ teaspoons of yeast. So we're just going to sprinkle that right in to the flour. Now, I do like to go ahead, where's my handle? Here we are. You'd think it was the first time I used this, but I'm not used to using it backwards. We're just gonna stir this up just to incorporate the yeast in with the flour really quick. A little bit of sugar in there for sweet, for flavor, the olive oil. And we're going to do about 2 tablespoons of olive oil each other, but I'm just going to go in and add the water, and I'm going to give it just a real quick stir, kind of to get things started a little bit. just for a couple of seconds. And now I'm going to add in, finally, 2 teaspoons of salt. So the dough is very shaggy. Like when you see it down in there, it is not precise. And because it's looking a little wet, I'm going to go ahead and add in a little more flour. And now again, this is all going to depend on the weather in your kitchen, the humidity outside, but this is a pretty sticky dough all told. So I dumped the dough out onto the board, and you can see it's still sticking a little bit. And we are going to knead this for about 2 minutes. And to knead, literally, you just take the heel of your hand, push it away, use the other hand to turn it over. Turn it. Heel, roll over, turn. Okay, so I'm liking how that feels, and I have a bowl here. I'm going to just drizzle a little olive oil inside the bowl. I'm going to place the dough in and kind of coat it around and just flip it around. I have my pizza dough covered with plastic wrap, and you also are just going to want to cover it with a towel. It doesn't have to be damp or anything like that, but it kind of keeps things dark and cozy, and put it into a nice warm place. I'm gonna go wash these hands, and we'll be making some pizza. Some gorgeous, gorgeous risen dough. And I think it was very happy in my bathroom. All right, so I am going to just flour this a bit, and you're gonna see that this comes out super easily. Now from here, we can do one of 2 things. We can make pizza. I highly suggest you cut it in half, and we're gonna make about 2 14-inch pies with this dough. Okay. And then I'm gonna take this one and tuck it under. You can freeze it right from here. I wrap it in plastic wrap and set it on a piece of parchment, wrap it in plastic wrap, and tuck everything into freezer-safe bags, label it with the date, and you are just going to start patting, and patting from the center out. And you'll see even this dough is just bubbling up. And then I like to go around and pull it from the center. So keep a hand in the center and pull it from the sides. And just keep going until you get, okay. And then literally just shimmy it directly onto your stone, and you'll have a gorgeous pizza in no time. I am so happy to have you here each week tableside as I explore the recipes I grew up with and some that I didn't. And I'm always looking for new, fun ways to make them modern, approachable, and ready to entertain family and friends. Until next time, thanks again.